This is the Pixel 6 Pro. It has a fantastic screen, fantastic camera. It's like a personal digital assistant in your pocket. For $900 though, I would look somewhere else. Welcome to the review. So let's start out with the screen, the thing that you interact with the most. It's really good. It has a 120 Hz display, but not only that, it also is AMOLED, which means really deep blacks and really sharp colors. You can view it outdoor really easily. People say that they have experienced problems with the display and the refresh rate. On my end, I haven't experienced any sort of refresh rates or drops in refresh rate. Overall, the screen does a fantastic job. 120 Hz scrolling is absolutely super smooth. Next up, let's talk about the cameras, because that's why you get a Google phone, is for the camera and how smart it is. So let's start off. The main shooter of the Pixel 6 Pro is the 50 megapixel main camera. Then we also have a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 12 megapixel periscope lens, which is the telephoto lens, an LDAF sensor, which is a little bit worse than LiDAR, but it helps the phone sense depth. Not to the sense of LiDAR, but it still does a pretty good job. And then we have the giant flash unit on the far right. Combine all these and you can get some very good pictures. So the types of pictures you can get on this camera are actually quite amazing. This is the picture of my dog I took when he was playing with this toy. As you can see, everything is perfectly exposed, lovely. The background has the shadows, but the dog, his paws, everything is perfectly in focus. You have the little bed in the background. Here's a picture I took of my food, and as you can see, everything is very well lit. This was a more dark restaurant, so considering what it did, was actually very impressive. Now going along, we have a night shot. This is when I went back home for the weekend. I stopped at Chick-fil-A. As you can see, it really exposed the planes quite well in the American flag as well. The one thing I personally don't think it did such a good job as is the actual Chick-fil-A sign itself. It's because it made it more white than it actually is in person. In person, it's more red. In this, it seemed much more white. Here is a good representation of just a standard outdoor shot. And this was the first picture I took when I first unboxed the phone of my camera. As you can see, very good in stills. And then how can I forget the selfie camera? As you can see, it actually did a pretty good job lighting up my face. It's a little bit softer than everything, but again, it was in a little bit more dark environment. But, if you take selfies, it'll do a pretty good job as well. And here's a few other pictures that I want to toss up on here as well. Overall, camera is absolutely phenomenal. And now, here's a look at a quick video from the Pixel 6. The camera is absolutely amazing. Any type of shot you throw at it, it does a fantastic job. Daylight, direct sunlight, nighttime, astrophotography. When you take a picture with this phone, you really don't have to worry about how it's going to come out, because what you see is really what you're going to get. And software does help it make it better, so you can make it more vivid, cool, or any sort of customizations that you would like. But overall, if you just snap and take the picture, it's going to come out looking the most natural and real out of probably any camera I've ever tested. So it's major props to that. However, though, when it comes to the video, it does dip in frame rate at 60 FPS every now and then. So I would say iPhone still has a better video, but this video is still very good in the grand scheme of things. Now the camera on this, I would rate an 8 out of 10 because it has fantastic stills, but the video is lacking that little extra kick that could just push it over the edge. In my opinion, the iPhone still has better video, but this video still does a pretty dang good job as well. Next up, let's talk about the processor running this. So Google has their own custom processor that is running this phone. Just like how Apple has their own A-series chips, Google decided to make their Google Tensor chip. The Google Tensor chip is very good for picking up things like your voice. If you're doing a voice recording, it can live transcribe what you are saying, and it is accurate 99.9% of the time, which is honestly fantastic. The Pixel really adapts to you, and not only that, but it's really customizable too, which is the advantage of this Tensor chip instead of a Qualcomm chip, because Google can obviously control it just like how Apple controls their own chips. One downfall about this chip though is, even though it's a custom 5nm processor, is that the battery is very bad. I'm only getting around 4 hours of screen on time, and if you do anything heavier, expect less. It's really disappointing to say that the battery is honestly the main reason I wouldn't recommend this phone. So, we've already said that the screen is absolutely great for day-to-day use. The camera is even better, so here's why it can be a really cool daily assistant. If you have a lot of things going on, like your calendar is stacked every single day, or if you have like a lot of voice commands that you do on the fly because you're busy, like remind me to do this or remind me to do that. It's a very helpful tool, especially if you're busy, because you may get lost and like, didn't I have to do something? Well, this phone will remind you 100% of the time, and it's really reliable on that. So that is a huge thing for people that are really busy and that need to jot down a lot of reminders and be reminded at a later time or date. Google is a fantastic phone for that. The Pixel is known for having stock Android because, well, Google owns Android. So it's just the raw Android experience. What's really disappointing though is how buggy it can be sometimes. I haven't experienced those make the phone really hard to use bugs. I've experienced a few bugs here and there with like a little bit of dip in performance here with the camera like kind of lagging behind sometimes, a little bit with the fingerprint sensor not scanning all the time. But I haven't had anything that really makes or breaks this phone. Now I assume this might be like Google's like kind of inconsistencies with the phone because as we know, Google hasn't been the best with phones before. But at least on my end, I really haven't experienced a lot of bugs. And I do say I'm very lucky too, because I know some people can't stand the bugs. So I'm personally very lucky to not experience that. So when it comes to bugs or problems with it, I don't have many problems with it personally. But you may end up having a different story than I do, because as we know, these phones are kind of inconsistent to that. So would I recommend this for $900? It depends. If you're someone that really needs a digital assistant that can always be there to help you remind you with daily tasks or things like that, or you need something really smart that can always make sure it hears your voice perfectly and writes down what you say 99% of the time, I would say get this phone because it's fantastic. Now the battery life, it is pretty bad. If you kind of ignore the battery life and you bring a charger everywhere, it does a great job. It's not a bad phone, but it does a great job. If you're a more techie person, I would say, and you want like a phone that will last you and that does stuff and has like zero compromises, I would say go with the new Galaxy series because Galaxy phones are very good nowadays. And I would say the S22 is a little bit better than the Pixel, especially when it comes to build quality and software with Samsung's One UI. With that all being said, I would say if you're looking for a digital assistant that can help you do day-to-day tasks, get the Pixel. But if you want more of a phone experience like what Apple does, go for a Samsung because you can't go wrong there. With that all being said, thank you so much for watching this review. If you liked it, make sure to hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it, then make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them and maybe make a follow-up video if you have any more questions or concerns about the Pixel. But with that all being said, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.